Welcome into Outkick the Show, boys and girls. I hope all of you are having fantastic Mondays and you had spectacular weekends wherever you may be across this great country or this great land. We got a lot to get into, and we begin with the rank hypocrisy of the NBA. But before we get to that, I want to say thanks. I want to say thank you for making me, first time I've ever seen this anywhere in sports, 3 different podcasts right now on the iTunes ranking, all in the top 25. Outkick the Coverage, my morning radio show, this Outkick the Show, and Wins and Losses. I hope you went and listened to my interview with Senator Hawley over the weekend. If you did not, I would encourage you to go listen to it. I believe it is the smartest bit of sports media that you will see anywhere in the country. And the amount of growth that we have seen is just off the charts. So thank you for giving me 3 top 25 podcasts. I've never seen anybody have 3 different top 25 podcast rankings like I do right now. I'd encourage you to go subscribe to all the podcasts. This morning Outkick with Jason Whitlock and with an excerpt from Senator Hawley, I think is as good of a podcast on the world of sports as you will find anywhere in the country, as good of a show as we can do. It was nearly flawless. Encourage you to go download it and watch it and make sure you don't miss it. But there are a lot of things to get into. Right off the top here, I want to tell you to go read Jason Whitlock's column, to go read my most recent column that is at Outkick, and I want to tell you to go sign up for the Outkick VIP. We are signing up the Outkick VIP by the thousands. Thousands of you rolling in to go sign up for Outkick VIP because you support what we're doing. And for everybody out there who's listening right now, you say, I love what you're doing, Clay. I love all the work that you are doing. I love everything about it. What's the thing you could do to most support what we are doing? I appreciate the listening. I appreciate the watching. I appreciate all of the sharing of the content and everything else. The thing you can do the most is go sign up for Outkick VIP. You get the right to comment on our articles. You get the right to call into the radio show on a special VIP line. You get an autographed copy of my book, which we're almost out of. Literally, I don't know if you saw me tweet out or Instagram out a stack of books. We are signing up hundreds and hundreds of people every day for the Outkick VIP. And so that is what you can do the most, because the more you do with that, the more we go out and actually buy up more and more talent and produce more and more content. We're debuting the Outkick Podcast Network in August, which is going to be featured around Jason Whitlock, who's going to be doing a Fearless branded podcast, which I think is going to absolutely kill it. I am encouraging all of you to get out there and make smart decisions there, all right? And I'm going to have to block somebody here. I happen to look over. Yeah, I've been talking about Hong Kong and human rights for a long time. Yes, I care about democracy. I'll get to that in a minute. Somebody said, could somebody tell me if Clay Travis cared about democracy and human rights before the NBA? Yeah. I cared about the First Amendment. Did you watch CNN? You know the guy who got banned by CNN for saying the only thing he cared about was the First Amendment and boobs? First Amendment, big part of human rights. So yeah, I cared about that in advance. But got to take a man, wipe him out right now. If you're listening on the podcast, as hundreds of thousands of you are every month, you can check out the live feed. We also, my kids keep saying, talk about the YouTube channel. Talk about the YouTube channel. You can watch all the videos that we do up on YouTube too. Search out my name or Outkick. You can go subscribe there. We doubled subscriptions there in the last couple of weeks. And we are growing unlike anything I've ever seen before. But the thing you can do to help the most is go sign up for Outkick VIP today. Get out there right now. Sign up for Outkick VIP. Support truth, justice, and the American way. Jason Whitlock, myself, all of our Outkick writers at the Outkick VIP. All right, coronavirus update. You know how everybody's been running around talking about, oh my God, the death rate is going to be unbelievable. Oh my God, how are we ever going to be able to survive? I want to just talk about Florida for a second. All right, let's talk about Florida. There are a lot of sports media out there rooting for the coronavirus. Darren Ravel is one of them. I think he's going to come on the show Wednesday to talk about why he felt the need to tweet out to the SEC, everybody's dying. Look at all the cases and infections you got. If only you've been smart enough to do what New York did. It's one of the dumbest arguments I ever seen. And I like Darren. And I'm enjoying him coming on the show. But it's one of the dumbest arguments I've ever seen anybody lay out. if you pay attention to the Florida data, and Florida does an unbelievable job of laying out the data. Florida just had one of their lead doctors go on CNN. I think he blew CNN's mind. And he said less than 1% of people who get the coronavirus in the Tampa area now are dying. Why does that matter? Okay. Well, let's take the worst number that is out there over the weekend. 15,300 people got the coronavirus. Okay. Tested positive for it. That would mean under the current numbers that exist in Florida today, that the death rate would be under 150 people. For the 15,000 that tested positive, the death rate would be under 150 people. So again, 15,000 test positive, under 150 are going to die based on the current Florida death rate that is out there. Even lower than that, obviously, who are young, all right? That is significant because what Florida's numbers are reflecting is the collapse of leadership and failure that we saw in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Illinois, Michigan. All of these states with Democratic governors totally blew it. They bought into the fear porn. They bought into the idea that everybody was going to die who got the coronavirus, and they sent patients right back into the nursing homes. And when you actually look at the data reflects that if they had just not sent patients back into the nursing homes, the death rate would be 60 or 70% lower. I frankly don't know why Donald Trump is not making a bigger part of his argument the failure of the media's beautiful favorite, Andrew Cuomo, who made the worst decision in the 21st century of any elected leader when he sent infected patients out of hospitals back into nursing homes and allowed the virus to spread like wildfire among the most vulnerable. And you say, why did he do that? He did that because he bought all these stupid fear porn forecasts that the media has continued to bombard us with. And the media has continued to bombard us with these such that Andrew Cuomo thought that he was going to need 140,000 beds. The actual peak, I believe, for New York beds that they needed was 18,000. And so he bought into the idea that he was going to need 140,000. You remember the convention center? Do you remember the ship that got sent up to New York? Do you remember all of that? Cuomo blew it, and now you're seeing as Florida approaches 70% of the overall number of cases that New York has had, Florida has more people and 1/10 of the death rate of New York because Ron DeSantis is doing an infinitely better job managing the coronavirus than Andrew Cuomo did. Now, you wouldn't know it based on the way the media is covering it, but even worst case scenarios. Look, the numbers started going up almost 3 weeks ago in New York. They went over 5,000 daily cases, okay? 3 weeks ago in New York, 19 days ago. Today in Florida, there were 35 deaths. In New York, there were 41. So even today, even amidst the Florida spike, the surge, Florida had fewer deaths than New York today. Not to mention 1/10 overall. All right, it's a big detail. Furthermore, Florida is making solid decisions instead of blowing it left and right like all of those Democratic governors did who ran up the massive death rates. Again, go watch the interview that I tweeted out of one of Florida's leading doctors. He said right now under 1% of the known cases end in death. Of the known cases. Remember, we're only catching about 1 in 10 of every cases. So when you actually do the math, if it's under 1% of the known cases, it actually means 99.9% of all cases people are surviving in the state of Florida right now. And there's an interesting theory out there which says that the herd immunity rate, if you look at Europe, if you look at New York, if you look at New Jersey, it appears to be somewhere between 10 and 20% instead of 60 or 70%. The data is suggesting, if you look at Europe where the coronavirus has just disappeared, and where, by the way, a lot of people don't wear masks. If you look at New York and New Jersey and the Northeast where the coronavirus has basically disappeared, the best case scenario, if that were true, would be exactly what's happening in Florida right now, which is mostly young people get sick and then they create herd immunity because most of them don't have serious health consequences. And then Florida gets to herd immunity quicker than they otherwise would. So this is absolutely a ludicrous media coverage situation where the data doesn't seem to matter, okay? They want a panic to set in Florida, but even if the 15,000 number is accurate in terms of everybody being sick right now, that would mean under 150 people would die from the coronavirus because the death rate has fallen below 1%. Again, you can go watch the video from CNN today. The data actually matters. All right? This is something that should be looked into. That's my coronavirus update. By the way, deaths went up a little bit. It's a little bit of a messy week with July 4th going on, but it looks like they are poised to come back down today below where they were last week. So we had 10 straight weeks of declines, a small little blip up, and it looks like they're going to start to decline again. We'll see. I could be wrong. I've said for a long time, at some point we hit the floor, right? You can't stop the virus from existing. So at some point you hit the floor. Maybe that's 200 deaths a day, but remember 7,500 people die every day of a variety of different causes. So it's impossible to actually end completely. All right? So I encourage all of you, go out, listen to the radio show this morning on podcast. Go listen to the Senator Hawley interview from Missouri. It's fantastic. It explains why I am calling out the NBA. A lot of people out there, they say, Clay, I'm a sports fan. Why should I care what the NBA is doing with China? It's a fair question. And I'm about to tell you why you should care about it specifically. The NBA is taking billions of dollars from modern day Nazis. Let me explain what I mean by that. Historical analogies rarely directly correlate, but if you had to say which world power right now is most like the Nazis in the 1930s, the answer would be China. They have Muslims in concentration camps. They have forced virtual slave labor. They have no basic human rights. They are a totalitarian regime that is expanding their influence around the globe and just took over Hong Kong. They are pulling books out of the Hong Kong library if they mention democracy because they consider it to be a violation of China's authority. They also have made it a crime for anyone to talk positively about the Hong Kong protesters around the world. That is, if you leave China, come to the United States and say something positive about the Hong Kong protesters and then go back to China, they will arrest you. The NBA wants to talk all the time about being on, quote, the right side of history. They are on right now the wrong side of history on the biggest issue confronting the NBA. It is what is going on in China. Are we in favor of basic human rights around the world, democracy, or are we going to allow China's authoritarian brand of communist totalitarianism to take over the world instead of our United States vision? China has got us all fighting inside the United States, Democrats, Republicans, independents, all throwing punches at each other while they are taking over Hong Kong. China's release and inability to stop and be honest about the coronavirus is far more devastating economically to the United States and other Western democracies. But the United States in particular has been more harmed by the coronavirus than we ever were by the Nazis. Let me repeat. The United States has been more harmed economically by the coronavirus, which China allowed to come to our shores and did not stop in its country, than we ever were by the Nazis in the United States of America. So historical analogies are not perfect, but effectively what the NBA is doing is they are taking money from our modern day version of Nazis, the Chinese, and they are doing it and to subvert American values. The NBA won't allow you to put free Hong Kong on a jersey that you buy in the United States, but they will allow you to say, fuck the police. All right, I want you to think about that for a moment again. You can't say free Hong Kong on a jersey in the United States, but you can say fuck police. Okay? The NBA is working for Chinese propaganda. All right? Everything that they are putting on the jerseys at the NBA is going to be used as propaganda by the Chinese Communist Party to argue to the Chinese people, look, things aren't very good in America. This is what happens with democracy. It fails. The United States is in a Cold War right now with China, even though most citizens haven't recognized it. And the NBA is taking China's side in exchange for money. It's a massive deal. Now, the NBA is not alone. There are a lot of companies out there doing this. ESPN, Disney, Apple. We got to start to stand up to China. If I were president right now, I would cancel all outstanding debt over the coronavirus. I would pull all the manufacturing jobs that I could out of China, put them into other countries. Certainly anything that is important that needs to be created, we need to be making it in America right now, okay? We have to recognize a lot of you are younger than me. A lot of you don't remember what it was like when the United States was in a Cold War with Russia. I do. People have gotten fat and lazy in the United States of America. They don't realize that we've got an enemy, that China is filling all of our social media with hate. They are trying to make us fight against each other so we don't notice what they're doing, the coronavirus, taking over Hong Kong, the South China Sea. Also, they want to take Taiwan. This is all what is going on right now. And the NBA is an important metaphor because of the Daryl Morey tweet for why we need to stand up to China and why we can't allow our American sports leagues to become communist propaganda like we are allowing right now. Okay? Moreover, you got Adam Silver, LeBron James bending the knee to China. Chairman Z, think about this. Adam Silver said we express mutual respect for China, and nobody even talked about it. Nobody even mentioned it in the media. Mutual respect. What does Adam Silver respect? Does he respect democracy book bannings? Does he respect concentration camps? Does he respect a lack of basic human rights and individual freedoms? There is no reason to respect China at all. They are a totalitarian dictatorship which has no respect for us. We should have no respect for them. This is why the NBA matters, all right? You can't just shut up and dribble and take money from China and then claim that you're social justice warriors when you're ripping down American institutions in our country. LeBron James in particular. Yesterday he tweeted free Woj. Woj is fine. Adrian Wojnarowski deserved to be suspended for what he did because it was stupid. He wrote, fuck you, to a Missouri senator who pointed out his hypocrisy, ESPN's hypocrisy, the NBA's hypocrisy as it pertains to China and Hong Kong. He deserved to be suspended. If he had said the same thing to AOC, or if he had said the same thing to Joe Biden, he would have gotten fired. The reason why he knew he could say fuck you was because Josh Hawley is a Republican senator and because ESPN doesn't respect half of the country. That's clear. Straightforward. They are MS-ESPN. They are, beyond a shadow of a doubt, woke center. All right? So, LeBron tweets free Woj. Woj doesn't have anything wrong. He's suspended for a couple of weeks as we broke at Outkick. He's going to get his job back and make millions of dollars. But LeBron James won't say free Hong Kong. He won't support human rights in China. LeBron wants to brand himself hashtag more than an athlete. Hashtag I refuse to shut up and dribble. But the truth of the matter is this. If you pay LeBron James enough money, he will shut up and dribble. He doesn't want to be anything more than an athlete. He's a pale flicker of Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali gave up his heavyweight title and refused to go to war and went to jail over what he believed in. LeBron James makes more money ripping America than he would if he actually stood up for human rights and justice and didn't say that the First Amendment was a bad thing when he demonstrated that he is Chairman Z's favorite individual NBA player. All right? Also, LeBron James is bending the knee to China and his Chinese masters and overlords. Why? So he can get Space Jam 2 into Chinese theaters. This dude is a huge hypocrite and a huge fraud. He'll rip America when there's no risk. He'll rip Donald Trump when there's no risk. He'll say free Woj when there's no risk. But if you actually threaten his pocketbook at all, he won't say a damn word. LeBron James is really the biggest fraud in all of sports. And the NBA and Greg Popovich and Steve Kerr and Adam Silver and all these woke, fake social justice warrior losers are silent while they shut up and dribble and take Chinese communist dollars. That is why it all matters. So too the sports media. It's a disgrace. Are you covering a league or are you captured by the league? Oh, all these guys tweeting out about how they're in the bubble. Who cares whether you're in the bubble or not? All you're doing in the bubble is massaging Adam Silver's balls. You're not actually asking questions that matter. You're cuddling everybody who's in the NBA, giving them butterfly kisses. Are you media members that are trying to speak truth to power, or are you ball cuddlers? Because it seems to me that all the NBA media are a bunch of ball cuddlers. They're walking right up to Adam Silver and they're massaging his balls and saying, what can we do to make you feel better, Commissioner? We're not going to ask you any difficult questions. We're not going to ask you what the truth is. When you say you had respect for China, what do you respect the most? The concentration camps? The pulling books out and banning them from libraries, putting people in jail for protesting for democracy. What part of that do you respect the most? The NBA has chosen to align itself with modern day Nazis, which is certainly ironic because all the NBA players and their fans run around on Twitter all day long calling people they disagree with on social media Nazis. If you really study history, the closest thing we have to a Nazi government that is a world power in the world today is China, and that ain't a question at all. And yet the NBA is on the wrong side of history, refusing to stand up to them. All right, that's my thoughts on the NBA. The Redskins have changed their name. It's hard for me to get that worked up about the Redskins name change. And here's what I mean about the Redskins name change. I don't care what the Redskins call themselves. I care about this, setting the precedent that whenever people whine, you change, right? If we could come out right now and we could say, okay, we'll give you the Redskins name change. Will you stop whining? Probably not. You're going to come after the Indians, and then you're going to come after the Braves, and then you're going to come after the Chiefs, and then you're going to come after the Seminoles, and then you're going to come after the Warriors. The thing that you have to understand, go read the New York Times article about ESPN today, is woke loser media are never satisfied. They owe their entire existence to their perpetual outrage. So you can't appease them. You can't give them something and expect them to say, oh, you know what? Now we're happy. Everything is great again. No. They come for something else. And this is why what we saw with the monuments. The New York Times had an article saying, we need to tear down the Jefferson Memorial. We need to tear down the Washington Monument. We need to tear down Mount Rushmore. People made fun of Donald Trump when he said, where does this monument tear down society end? And the answer is it doesn't end. There's always another one. Because if there isn't another one, then the woke universe has no power. They have to have another foe, which is why you have to stand up to them and say, no, period. We're not going to allow it anymore. So again, I don't care about the Redskins. I don't care about that name at all. I didn't grow up a fan of that team. I don't particularly care about Dan Snyder's leadership of them. He's made them basically irrelevant for the last 20 years, and I say that as someone who went to college in Washington, D.C. and went to a game the first season in RFK or whatever the heck it's called now. I don't care about that name, but it doesn't end there. That's the problem. There's always something new. And as a result, if there's always something new, then it never actually ends. So I don't really care. Having said that, I kind of like the idea of the Washington Red Tails as the name. I like the idea of honoring World War II soldiers because they were the last people who actually stood up to true evil. And the Red Tail fighter pilots, to the best of my knowledge, you get to keep the red, you add the tails. That would be, I think, a really cool idea for a name, the Washington Red Tails. So this is really, really simple and straightforward. People are perpetually offended. It will never end. All right, Westbrook. Russell Westbrook has got coronavirus. Here's an idea that I have for the NBA that I haven't heard anybody else asking. Why is the NBA only testing for current COVID corona infections? Wouldn't it be helpful to have an antibody test that is being run to see what percentage of current NBA players have already had the coronavirus? Why am I the only person suggesting this? It seems like a really easy solution. Current tests are great, but you could not test positive on Tuesday and you could have it on Wednesday. So current tests don't really make that much sense because you can test negative on a Tuesday and you can be positive on a Wednesday. What I would rather have the information of is what percentage of NBA players have the antibodies to this virus already, because then it gives you an idea of how many people theoretically are susceptible to catching the virus inside of the bubble. Speaking of which, we got an article up on Outkick that's wildly popular right now. The bubble may end up getting punctured by side chicks. Side chicks are on Twitter already saying they are getting invited into the bubble. This is going to be an incredible Mission Impossible storyline, trying to sneak all the side chicks into the bubble past the security. This is going to be interesting to see whether the entire NBA season could end up collapsing because of some groupies trying to get snuck into the bubble. Now, some of you out there are like, oh, that sounds crazy. I'll tell you this right now. If I were 25 years old or so and a single pro athlete, the minute I got into the bubble, I would turn it into Shawshank Redemption, and I'd be like Red, sitting around all day long trying to figure out not how to break out of the bubble, although I think it's possible some NBA players could try to sneak out of the bubble to go meet the side chicks, but also how do you get the side chicks back into the bubble, right? I would be sitting around. You got a lot of time to fill. You got a lot of time to fill here. I would send in all that time sitting around with my teammates thinking about how do we sneak in all of the different side chicks. Side chicks likes, side chicks, groupies, everybody else, right? How do you get them into the bubble? This is the biggest threat to the NBA season that very few people are talking about. Finally, all right, this makes no sense, all right? This makes absolutely no sense. Los Angeles has announced that schools will all be remote for the return of the fall. Let me just make this clear. If you are not in favor of sending kids back into high school, back into elementary school, you are in no way actually looking at data. You are an unreasonable, fear-laden human being. Your son or daughter is 20 times as likely to die of the flu as they are of the coronavirus. The odds of anybody getting the virus from kids is incredibly low as well, as they are not a primary vector of spread. This is a factual and scientific reality. Kids need to be back in school, period. This is not complicated. The fact that people are listening to the Corona Bros, whether it's kindergarten or college, the risk to children is low. You are more likely, if you are a college kid, to die in a traffic accident driving to college than you are from the coronavirus. Old people, if you don't want to teach this fall, don't teach this fall. But you can't shut down the entire country for something that has a 99.9% recovery rate. This is not a danger to young people. There is a much greater danger in keeping young people out of school. Guys, if your kids are poor, they are going to fall behind 2 years from privileged kids. They don't have access to computers. They don't have access to reliable Wi-Fi. And they probably have parents that are going to have to work because they can't afford to stay home. This is one of the worst decisions, if not the worst decision that I have seen made in the 21st century in America. Kids need to be back in school. This is not complicated. The facts all prove it. This is insanely dumb. One reason why this show is surging is because I am a reasonable voice amid a voice of insanity. If you enjoy this show, share it with your friends, bookmark Outkick, go sign up for our VIP. Listen to me every morning, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, channel 83 on Sirius XM. All 50 states, 300 plus affiliates. I appreciate all of you. My name is Clay Travis. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. Be smart. Use your brains. Only 3 things matter right now. The facts, the facts, the facts. Use them. Kisses. See y'all. Love you, Facebook. Thank you, guys. See ya.